Greetings from the garden. My name is Ben, and today we're going to look at getting started with compost. So let's jump into the garden and get started. So first things first, what is compost? Well, compost is decomposed organic material that has broken down over time. And when we say organic material, it's important to note that we aren't necessarily referring just to how something was grown, so plant material, but really anything that was once alive. So anything that's carbon-based. The great thing about composting at home is that it helps to keep this organic material out of the conventional waste cycle because it won't break down in a landfill quite like it'll break down in your home garden. So depending on where you're growing, your soil will be different. Ideal soil that you want is dark in color, loose, and easy to work. If you have compacted soil, your plants will not do as well. And compost is a great way to amend that compacted soil. So let's look at what goes into making great compost. So ingredients we want in our compost are things like fruit and veggie scraps, eggshells, coffee grounds, hair, flowers, yard clippings, leaves, cardboard, untreated paper. You get the idea. Things we don't want in our compost include meat or dairy products, paper products that have been treated, greasy food, or animal poop. Rule of thumb, if you don't want it coming into contact with your food, don't put it in your compost. So making compost is kind of like baking bread. A few simple ingredients combined to make something really awesome. Also like baking, a few simple rules will set you up for success. When making compost, we have two types of ingredients, greens and browns. What are our green ingredients? Well, these are things that are nitrogen rich. To continue the baking metaphor, these are your wet ingredients. They include things like your fruit and veggie scraps, your eggshells, coffee grounds, hair, flowers, and yard clippings. Your brown ingredients, well, these are carbon-rich organic materials. Think of these as your dry ingredients. They include things like dry leaves, cardboard, and paper. Well, now that we know what does and doesn't go into our compost, let's get started making it. There are countless ways you can generate compost. In a pile in the corner of your yard, in a corral, right in your planting bed, or pick up a composter from your garden center, whatever your style. Regardless of where you choose to compost, it's important to maintain a balance between your greens and your browns. Too many greens, too wet, and your compost will be a sticky, goopy mess. Too many browns, and your compost will decompose much more slowly. Try and layer your greens and browns in a 1-to-1 ratio. This is a great way to keep your compost balanced and to help it break down quickly. Here are two final tips for success. First, your compost will bake faster if it has adequate airflow. You can achieve this by turning, and this is exactly what it sounds like, mixing up your compost to introduce air and bring the more decomposed material to the top. Second, just like our gardens, compost needs to be watered too. Keeping your compost moist aids in decomposition. If your compost appears dusty when turning, add a bit of water. If your compost is in an enclosed container, like a bucket or trash can, make sure you drill holes in the container to allow for proper drainage so your compost doesn't get too wet. Well, there you have it. You are composting. Your compost should be ready in about 3 to 12 months depending on weather, depending on your green to brown ratio, and depending on the time of year you start composting. You'll know your compost is ready when you can no longer identify the original ingredients, and it's a nice, deep, dark, decadent texture that's just absolutely delicious and ready to go right into your garden. It's a great way to give existing plants a gentle boost for the year. Well, I hope you can see how easy it is to get started making your own compost right at home. Now that you have this amazing source and soil amendment right in your space, you'll be able to keep your plants happy and healthy for years to come. Thanks for joining me, and happy gardening.